I want to ask Austin Fiveash, there he is, to come forward.
During the course of my career, I have seen much death. On the ambulance, I've held the hands of many who reported regrets or goals unreached, work left undone. As coroner, I have sat with families and listened to stories of those gone too soon, and how if they had just had more time, they could have done this or been that. I don't think we can say those things about our beloved Janie. She wasted no time. She accomplished all she set out to do with determination and passion. She held nothing back, and she allowed nothing to hold her back. She overcame adversity and challenges that many of us have never had to face. She loved her family, her friends, and her community. She mentored and educated thousands and fought for all people, regardless of race, color, or creed. When I learned of her passing, I took to social media to share just one story of her, our story. Although some of you know it or read it, I would like to share some of it again with you now, and another story or two you may not know. Some years ago in high school, a class scheduling conflict forced me to pick between an accounting elective or healthcare. I wasn't happy about it, but I figured that the easiest class would be healthcare. The class had already started, but my counselor allowed the swap, and I still remember her smirk when she said, "You and Miss McGhin should get along just fine." 5 days late, I reported to her room, and as she called the roll and came upon my name, she looked at me up and down, and she said, "Young man, you're 5 days late. We have a test tomorrow on the blood flow through the heart, and you won't be able to pass. Are you sure you want to stay?" Well, that sounded like a challenge to me. I already knew the blood flow through the heart, and I went home that night and I made sure that I had it memorized. The next day, when I turned in the test, she graded it and called me to her office. "Who did you cheat off of?" she asked. I told her that I didn't cheat, and she said, "Okay, do it again." So I did it backwards. She was much less impressed than I had hoped. She watched me close, and after a few weeks, she asked me to join a club that she chaired called HOSA. She told me that we traveled to competitions, and that if I would enter the EMT competition, I would not have to do any work in her class other than study. She had herself a deal. Myself and others traveled with her all over, and we won everywhere we went. We made it to nationals in Dallas, Texas, and while we were there, this kind of scruffy-looking guy approached us, and it was a con in a way. He would give a lady a flower and compliment them, and then he would turn to the guy and ask for payment. So he did this to us, and when he turned to me, I said, "I'm not paying you." He began to get somewhat irate, and he didn't know what he was in for. Miss McGhin came back over and she said, "This is my child, and if you have a problem with him, you can take it up with me." "Do we have a problem?" she asked. After a short conversation in Spanish, she produced some cash and took all the man's flowers. As we entered the hotel, she put them in a vase on the table in the center of the lobby. I remember worrying and thinking, you can't just do that. You can't rearrange the hotel's lobby. But she was carefree. I ran up and I asked her why she bought all those flowers anyway. She said, "Well, he needed the money and the hotel needed some flowers. And now he won't be able to bother any more of my students. It's a win-win. Problem is solved." You see, Janie was a protector. As we say here in the South, she would fly 99 hot if you mess with her kids. But she was also a critical thinker. She always took time to see both sides of a story. She always looked for ways to solve a problem that helped everybody. Later that night, she came to my hotel room and she told me she was going across the street for dinner. and that if she returned to find alcohol, tobacco, or girls in a boy's room or a boy in a girl's room, that I would never live to leave Texas. I believed her. I won that competition, and several others in our group did as well. We did so well because Janie was a believer. She believed in her students, and because she believed in us, we believed in ourselves. She made us believe we were the best of the best, and because of her, we were. She truly believed her students could do anything. She believed in the American dream. She believed in hard work. She believed that education was something that could never be taken away, and pushed so many to stay in school and to keep going. Janie was proud. I don't think I've ever seen anyone so proud. When her students won, you could hear her yelling over the entire crowd. She would run down the aisles and dance, and when we walked off the stage, she would be right there to paste that bright red lipstick on your cheek and embarrass us all with pictures. She would stop the entire show until she got her picture. She was proud of her students. She was proud of her family. She was proud of her heritage. She was a proud American, and boy, was she a proud nurse. The next year, I took her class twice more. She came to me one day and asked if I would take some cash inside of a folded up note down to the lunchroom. "Don't open the note," she told me. So I took the note, and when I returned, she asked if I had read it, and I had not, so I told her so. From then on, for what seemed like a year, I took money to the lunchroom inside a folded note. One Monday, a fellow student came to the room. She was out of work. We had a substitute. And he looked around for her and left. Then on Tuesday, she hadn't returned, and this guy came back. He was a quiet, somewhat odd guy that no one really seemed to talk to, and mostly wore the same clothes every day. We all knew that he faced challenges in life. On Tuesday, when he came back and looked again, and I went to leave for my next class, I saw him sitting out in the hallway alone. I asked what he needed Mrs. McGhin for. I told her that I had her cell number and that I would call if he wanted. "No thanks," he said, and as I walked off, I heard him say, "Hey, Austin, don't you go in her office to study?" "Every day," I said. He said, "Did you happen to see a folded note on her desk?" Well, it hit me like a ton of bricks. "Let me go look," I said. I went into her office and I pulled $20 from my wallet. I wrote his name on her stationery and I folded it up just like she did. And I walked back to the hall and handed it to him. And I said, "Does this look like it?" "That's it," he said, and off he ran towards the cafeteria. When she returned the next day, I told her what had happened and I asked why she paid for that boy's lunch every day. She said, "The only reason that child comes to school is for a meal. He has nothing, and if it wasn't for lunch, he wouldn't come. With a little help, that boy's going to be something one day." You see, Janie was a leader. She led by example, an example for her students, for her colleagues, and her community. Janie was a giver and an investor. She would give her last dollar if need be. I know she paid for many meals. She paid for students to travel. She donated to anything she thought was a good cause. She gave not only money, but she gave hope. She gave love. She put her money where her mouth was, and she invested in people. After high school, we remained friends and spoke often. When I was elected coroner, she was in the courtroom for my oath of office. During some of the long talks over the years, I learned more of her story. She came to the United States at a young age of 6 and spoke no English. She didn't graduate high school due to the language barrier and dropped out and began working at a local hospital in Texas. She used to tell people that her husband, Robin, would only marry her if she passed her GED, and he's assured me that he never said that. He told her she only had to try, not pass, but just try. The one English word that Janie never understood was quit. She passed her GED and attended night school and became an LPN. After she married Robin, they moved briefly to Gainesville and ultimately to Valdosta, where she gained employment at SGMC in the operating room. She attended ABAC and earned her associates and later on to VSU for her bachelor's in nursing, then on to her master's in nursing and her nurse practitioner license. She spent most of her career in healthcare education, not only teaching, but mentoring and pushing others to reach for the moon. After she retired, she still didn't know quit. She opened her own practice focusing on diabetic education and treatment. Janie was a fighter. She was involved in her community and field. She traveled and fought hard for nursing and for full practice authority for nurse practitioners. She lobbied and fought hard for equality and equal access to health care. She was a winner. She won several awards herself and never gave up in her fight to make the world a better place. She was determined. She had purpose and would stop at nothing to reach her goals. She cared about everyone. The only thing she did not care about is who or what stood in her way to success. She was feisty. She never saw color or status. She believed all people and would defend what was right at all cost. Janie was an advocate. She was compassionate. Recently, she had a young Hispanic patient that called her office, and he didn't speak English, and told her that he felt very bad, but he didn't have a ride. So concerned, she called an ambulance to his home and left her office to go meet them. She was afraid that the paramedics would not understand his limited English, and she knew that he would be afraid to go with them. You don't find that anymore. That level of compassion, that level of empathy, that advocacy is not taught. Janie was a talker. In November, I called her on my way to Florida, and we talked for over 2 hours. We talked of politics and religion and her grandkids. Had I known that would be our last conversation, I would have never hung up. She was a teacher, but she taught much more than anatomy or healthcare. She taught about life. She taught me the world is not fair, but if you never give up, you can do anything. She taught me to care for others and not just live in my own bubble. She taught me the joy of giving to others. She taught me to plant seeds and to watch them grow. She taught me the only time to look back was to see progress, to look back and see all that you have accomplished. And accomplished she did. To her family. In death, most of us just simply hope to have made a difference. Well, what a difference she made for so many. Remember the boy that was looking for his note? His name is Stephen. He just finished his residency and fellowship and is now a trauma surgeon out west. As she said, with just a little help, that boy's going to be something one day. Another former student, Patrick, is now a pharmacist. 2 in my class became dentists. Many others have credited her in becoming nurses or aides, practitioners, doctors, or teachers. Janie McGhin touched thousands who went into the world themselves and have touched thousands more, all because of her and because of you. She is a legend. Her legacy will live on. It will live on in the healthcare providers she trained, those that she mentored, the students that she pushed to full potential, the patients that she healed, and the leaders that she made. Her fight will carry on in those whose eyes she opened to the disparities of the world. Her spirit will live on in each one of our hearts. We will carry her wisdom, her love, her compassion, and her determination forever. We will remember where we came from, and we will always plan for where we need to go. When we face adversity or challenges, we will remember that classy, feisty Hispanic lady who, against all odds, became a pioneer, saved many lives, and touched so many more. But you see, she was not alone in her success. You supported her, and you allowed her to take time away to travel with students and to grade papers and to plan classes, to start and run her business. They say behind every great man is a better woman, and I believe that's true. But behind every great woman, there is support. That support was her family. Robin recently described their relationship as a team. He would help her study and grade papers, help chaperone trips. He listened to her ideas, even the crazy ones, and helped her find a way to make it happen. She was great because you didn't just stand behind her, you stood beside her. Each and every one of you had a part in who she was, what she did, and the reasons that she did it. She could not have done all of this without you, and I know you are proud of her, but you should all be proud of yourselves too. To date, this is the greatest honor of my life. For the family of such an amazing and inspiring woman to trust me enough to share just a glimpse of who Janie was is truly an honor. I spent several days searching for the words, writing and deleting, reflecting on her and trying to put her into words. But the truth is, she can't be put into words. Who she was and what she meant to so many, all that she and Robin accomplished is simply indescribable. To know her was to love her. We grieve only for ourselves, for she is to be celebrated. Her life was full, her goals reached, her impact set in stone, her leadership unparalleled. Now her work on earth is done. For myself and the thousands of others that I stand here to represent, thank you. Thank you, Robin, for sharing your wife, Rob and Amanda for sharing your mother. Thank you for supporting her wild ideas and encouraging her unwavering pursuits. Myself and thousands more are forever in y'all's debt. And although her grandchildren may not know me or those that I've mentioned, rest assured, you all were the apple of that teacher's eye. She spoke of you and your activities to anyone that would listen. When we leave here, we should celebrate, for her life was certainly well-lived and successful. We should not look back and mourn, but look back and appreciate how great she truly was. I hope you understand her impact. I hope you find comfort in her legacy. We should smile with peace, knowing that she changed the world. We should laugh while remembering her carefree and sometimes crazy antics. You leave here knowing that she loved you, and we will leave here and carry on her great example. To Mama McGhin, your teachings and examples will last for generations. Your light will shine on. Your cheers will forever be heard. And literally, for heaven's sake, I hope you learn quit. If not, that glorious place just got a lot busier. I can just hear you say, boy, get on with it. So in short, thank you, we love you, and we will see you again one day.